To log in to the ScrimmageSim business simulation, navigate to the URL scrimmagesim.com. Next, select Login from the upper right corner. Then, select your university from the pull-down list, followed by your course. Click on Next, and you will be at the login screen. Notice the URL. In this case, it is server1.scrimmagesim.tech. The URL will have a subdomain. In this case, it is server1. And the URL may be different than scrimmagesim.com. In this case, it is scrimmagesim.tech. Your URL depends on where your class is hosted in the ScrimmageSim system. This is a URL to bookmark, as this will take you right to the login screen for your class without having to go through the pull-down lists to select your university and course. To log in, enter the tenant number assigned to your course. Enter the user ID that was assigned to you as well, and then enter the default password that was assigned to you. Next, you will click Login. This screen provides an option to reset your password if you forget it once you have completed the login process and entered your personal data. If you forget your new password, click on Forgot Password. And if you have specified the correct tenant and user ID, an email will be sent to you with a link that you can use to reset your password. Click on Login, and you will be taken to a screen where you have to reset your password. The only requirement for your password is that it must be at least 6 characters long. There is no requirement for numbers or capital letters or special characters. After clicking on New Password, you will get a screen where you need to enter your first name, last name, and email address. Be especially careful when you enter your email address, as the system will use this email address for resetting your password in case you forget it. Clicking on Enter. If your class is using license keys, you will get a screen where you must enter your license key to validate your account. After entering the license key, you will be at the main screen where there are at least 2 options. The Instructions menu option will provide written instructions for any scenario that you are using for the course. Click on the desired instructions, and a browser tab will open where an instructions document will be downloaded. Clicking on Scenario from the menu gives you a list of the scenarios that you will be using in your class. The scenarios are usually listed in the order in which they will be used in your class. In this case, we will be looking at Scenario 100, which is the basic brewery scenario. Click on Select, and you will get a screen with a list of the scenario runs. Your instructor may have you run a scenario more than once, and in that case, a list of runs will be provided. In this case, there is only one run, and clicking on Select will take you to the main screen of the Arborcrest Ale Studios scenario. The upper right corner of the screen provides details of the simulation, including the tenant number, scenario, run, and user ID. This information can be used to confirm that you are logged into the correct simulation for your course. ScrimmageSim operates using a menu system. Starting from the left, we will go through all of the menu options. The first option is Sales. Selecting this menu option will give you a table with all of the sales orders that Arborcrest has had over the past 3 years. Many screens in ScrimmageSim have this type of table, and these tables have a number of features that are useful. For example, you can sort the table by clicking on any of the column headings. Also, many of these tables have filters where you can choose a subset of the data to look at. For example, you can filter the sales table to look at specific products. In all of the Arborcrest scenarios, demand comes from a distributor who places an order every Wednesday. If we have the products in stock, we will close the sale. If we have less than the order quantity on hand, the distributor will buy what we have on hand, but will not place a back order so we will therefore lose sales. Another feature of these tables is that the data can be easily exported to a spreadsheet. Simply click on Export and the data will be downloaded to a spreadsheet. Next, we will open another window. Just like SAP software that uses sessions or multiple windows to look at data in the system, ScrimmageSim uses multiple browser tabs to allow the user to easily access multiple functions and reports. This allows you to come back to the sales table, click Refresh, and display the latest sales data from the simulation database. Next, we will look at sales on a monthly basis. This is the same data as in the sales report, but aggregated on a monthly basis. Again, this table has all of the features for sorting, filtering, and exporting the data as the sales table. A useful report is the sales graph, which at the start of the simulation shows a 3-year history of the sales for all 3 beers. As the simulation time advances, this graph will include the new sales data. If we click on the legend, we can remove data from the graph. So, if we want to look at the sales history for Alley Cat by itself, we simply click on Edgar and Taj Mahal in the legend. Similarly, we look at Edgar sales by itself and see that it is seasonal with higher sales in the winter, and for Taj Mahal, sales are not seasonal but growing over time. In addition to the detailed sales graph, the simulation provides a sales graph for monthly sales figures. Next on the menu are production options. In this scenario, all we have to do is decide which beers to produce and when. We do this by creating production orders. The production order screen has a number of options that are not used in this scenario. This is similar to SAP business software, where many screens have options and data fields that may not be used by a particular company. All we need to do with this screen is pick the product from the pull-down list and leave everything else the same. The default for the production quantity is 1,240. This quantity fills a fermenter and should be left unchanged. It will be easier to manage production if this quantity is not changed. With the product selected, click on Create Production Order, and a production order will be created and listed in the table below. To begin the simulation, all we need to do is create 4 production orders. At this point, it really doesn't matter which products we pick. There is enough inventory of each product to meet demand for 1.5 months, and once the simulation starts, it will be easy to see how quickly sales reduces inventory and how fast production orders replenish inventory. Here we will create 2 production orders for Alley Cat Ale, 1 production order for Edgar Ale, and 1 for Taj Mahal as well. If we accidentally create a production order we don't want, we can scroll down to the bottom of the screen and delete the production order. The production orders are listed with the most recently created order at the top of the list. The last order we created was the number 300007 for Taj Mahal, which is the one we want to delete. Care must be taken when deleting a production order. If the production order is in process, then we are, in effect, opening a valve and dumping the in-process beer down the drain. It's okay to delete an order that is not in process, and that is the case for all production orders before the simulation starts. Once the simulation is running, however, it is important to make sure that the production order is not in process before deleting it. We will delete the extra production order for Taj Mahal, which will leave us with 2 production orders for Alley Cat Ale, 1 order for Edgar Ale, and 1 order for Taj Mahal. These 4 orders will take 14 days to ferment and 1 day for bottling. Before the 14-day fermentation is complete, you will want to create 4 more production orders so there is no gap in production. Next, we are going to open another window so that we can see the production orders in process. From the production menu, select Work Center Queue. Currently, there are no production orders listed because the simulation is not operating. As soon as the simulation is operating, the production orders will be listed in this report. This report will show the sequence in which the orders are being processed and the amount of time left for each production order. Next, we'll open another window and look at the inventory reports. First is the finished inventory report that shows the current number of cases on hand. We can see that there is around 2,500 cases of Alley Cat on hand, and for Edgar and Taj Mahal, we have around 6,000 cases of each. That is enough inventory of each product to satisfy demand for approximately 1.5 months. So as long as you are producing beer in the first month, it is not critical exactly what products you make as long as you are using your production capacity completely and are making all 3 products. By the time the simulation gets to the end of January, you will have experience to understand how to manage your production. The next inventory report is lost sales. Currently, there are no lost sales, but that will change in the summer months when demand exceeds capacity. The most important thing is that the most profitable product, Taj Mahal, does not appear on this list. Ideally, only Edgar Ale, the least profitable product, should appear on this list. Next is the history table. This provides the ending inventory for each product for each day in the simulation. This data can also be exported to a spreadsheet like all table reports. Finally, the inventory history graph probably provides the most useful inventory information in the simulation. Currently, it is not very interesting because there is only one data point for each product. As the simulation advances, the graph will show how inventory grows when production orders are completed, and how quickly it is used when the distributor purchases our products. This is an important graph, so you should leave this window open for quick access. Next, we want to look at the results. First, we have the financial statements, which are presented in a tree format. The number listed on the income statement line will be the company's earnings before tax, which will be how the team's performance is evaluated. The first part of this report is the income statement, also known as the profit and loss, or P&L statement. This report tells whether the company is making or losing money over time. The second part of this report is the balance sheet, which tells what the company has in assets, what debts or liabilities the company has, and what the difference between those two are, which is the owner's equity, or what the company is worth, at least on paper. Finally, under results, we can see the team ranking report. The team ranking report will list the teams in order of earnings before tax. Once the simulation starts running, you can check on the status of your production orders by selecting the Work Center Queue tab and clicking Refresh. In this case, we can see that there are 4 production orders, 1 for each fermenter. You can see that Alley Cat is being produced on fermenters 1 and 2, Edgar Ale is being produced on fermenter 3, and Taj Mahal is being produced on fermenter 4. All of these production orders will finish fermenting in 13 more days. They will then spend 1 day being bottled and then will move to finished inventory ready to be sold. Another important piece of information on this report is the sequence number. The sequence number 0 means that the production order is in process. If we create additional production orders, they will get in line behind the orders that are in process and get sequence number 1. Additional orders will get sequence number 2, sequence number 3, and so on. Next, we can look at the inventory history graph. When we refresh this graph, only 1 day has passed, and the inventory levels are the same. That's because it is not yet Wednesday. Our distributor comes each Wednesday to purchase beer from us. When the simulation advances to January 3rd, we can update the inventory history graph by clicking Refresh and see that the inventory levels have decreased. We can see significant orders for Edgar Ale and Taj Mahal, and a much smaller order for Alley Cat Ale because it is a summer ale. We can always see the simulation date and time in any of these screens. If we switch to the Work Center queue and refresh, we can see how many days are left before the production orders are complete. Before these orders are finished, we will want to schedule 4 more production orders. As the simulation advances, we will see the next set of orders from our distributor, and we'll start to have a good idea of how quickly our inventory will be consumed by distributor orders. Because it is the peak season for Edgar and Taj Mahal, we can see that the inventory levels are being reduced rather quickly. Alley Cat is out of season, so its inventory levels are not being reduced very quickly. Once April arrives and it is the peak season for Alley Cat, the inventory levels will drop dramatically with each distributor order. So before April, we will want to build up the inventory of Alley Cat. At this point, we should create another set of 4 production orders, and in this case, we will again create 2 orders of Alley Cat Ale, 1 order of Edgar Ale, and 1 order of Taj Mahal. If we go to the Work Center Queue tab and click Refresh, we won't see the production orders yet because the simulation hasn't advanced another day. Once the simulation advances another day, we can see the 4 new production orders with sequence number 1, which indicates that these orders are in queue and ready to be processed once the first orders are completed. As the simulation advances, the first set of production orders are complete and no longer appear on the Work Center queue. Switching to the inventory history graph and clicking on Refresh, the inventory levels have not increased yet, as the beer takes 1 day for bottling. Once the bottling process is complete, the inventory history graph can be refreshed. And it is now possible to see how much a production order increases the inventory of finished beer. For Edgar Ale and Taj Mahal, 1 production order almost brings the inventory back to the original level. The 2 orders of Alley Cat have significantly increased the inventory for this beer, which is what we want to do in preparation for the high sales period that will start in April. With this review, you have enough information on how Scrimmage Sim works to run the first simulation scenario. To prepare for class, make sure you have created 4 production orders before class starts, so you will be ready to go when the simulation starts. Also, you are working as a team, so make sure that you coordinate your activities with those of your teammates. If you create 4 production orders and a teammate creates 4 production orders, your company will have 8 production orders scheduled when the simulation starts. You are working in one company and you have to work together to be successful.